everybody, it's Erin, and I'm here with my Use It Up Challenge number 2 results video. I got several layouts out of this. I'm actually surprised. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layouts and a Project Life page. I got 7 cards, and you'll see I didn't actually make embellishments, but I punched a bunch of stuff out. So here's the first layout. I didn't want to go full rainbow for a boy layout, but I liked these photos of my air quote little brother, the kitty Cinnamon, and my parents got a bunch of cats after I left their house, so I have 2 little sister cats and 1 little brother cat. And this is Mike with when he was a kitten with my little brother Cinnamon. And he is a total sibling, I swear, he's a total brat. And he gets away with murder, which it's like, you know, it's a good thing you didn't raise me like you raised these cats. But, so I kept it more on the boyish side with the green and the orange. I ended up turning over one of the papers so I could have more orange, but I forget which one it was. And for the sequins, I just kind of took sequins out of my little embellishment thing, and I just dropped them and glued them wherever they stuck, and I thought it ended up with a nice sort of random effect. So that was pretty cool. For this one, I'm going to get rid of the ones underneath so you can actually see. For this one, I went through my older photos. I mean, one of my little brother's old too, but that's basically what I'm doing, is I'm going through my older photos because I don't have a whole lot to scrap anymore, which kind of sucks, but you know, I have like big events, but I don't like to do those, and so I put them off, and I'd rather do this stuff. And I hadn't scrapped this photo of you know, that's me, like, when is this? 2009, so that's not too bad. Of 2 of the gals that I went to school with in 6th grade, and I really like the rainbow for this because it's, you know, bright and, you know, girl friendly, especially since this was taken in the winter, so, you know, everything's kind of grayish. And so I added these chipboard shapes. I wanted one of the arrows with white instead, like the rest of these, but I didn't have one, so I just kind of had to force it in there. And I cut a little strip across so that it would ground some of this brown. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to use this paper the way that it was, as pink as it is on the background, so I like how it looks when I mat it. And I did some splatters of black here, some smaller ones, and then highlighted it with, what are those? I think they're called sugar dots or something like that from Queen & Company. And then for the next layout, I wanted to make sure that I could get a Project Life layout. This is week 5 of this year, and it wasn't a very colorful week in the photos, so I thought having a colorful thing in the paper would work out. And I used a lot of the little cut-aparts from the paper because I figured that was the only way I was going to end up using them. I think you can see most of the cards this way. I don't want to pick it all the way up because I noticed it glared at you. But you can see I do a lot of hand journaling, and I do a lot of journaling, so it worked out that I ended up with a smaller weekly notation card, but that worked out. And then I like to do this kind of small things that happen during the week, but they don't have pictures, and they're not, like, obviously enough to make an entire scrapbook layout about. So just little events of things that happen. You know, we got rain, or, you know, 20 years ago one of my favorite shows premiered, watching crafty videos. You know, just stuff that's daily life, because I'm not going to make an entire scrapbook page about watching videos or TV shows, but it's nice to know what we were doing and what we were listening to and stuff like that. So that's definitely one of the things I put in Project Life. And going through older photos again. Excuse me. Going through older photos again, I found these pictures of Gambit when she was really young. And, oh, okay, she wasn't really young. She was 2 years old. We used to have a bigger house, and in our house there was a bunch of windows, and she had these platforms that we attached to the windows so that she could look out. And one of them was in our master bathroom because there was like the shower stall, and then there was this big open space that I'm pretty sure used to have something to do when, you know, before the room was remodeled. But after that, it was just, you know, like that's where her litter box and stuff was. So there was a window there. And so she would sit there for hours, whether the window was open or not, because it's awkward having a full open window in your bathroom. She would sit there for hours and just hang out and sleep. So I wanted to write a little note about that. I ended up finding this little tag, and so I put it up there with the journaling because I didn't have a whole ton of things to say, but a little bit. And I made liberal use of the wood veneers again. I mean, you buy the whole thing and you're like, oh, I'll totally use these all the time, and then you realize, I'm going to have to use these all the time just to use these up. So I tried to do the clusters, and then I punched out some of the blue paper to bring in the blue of this. And, you know, my favorite enamel dots, that kind of thing. And I got 2 washi tapes on here, which I thought it was good. Because I definitely got to use that washi too. And then now for another boy layout. This is a picture of me and our dog Vigo when he was a puppy. And for this one, I did do some splatters here and some splatters there. We're out hiking, so I thought it was kind of, it gave it sort of a rugged look. And then I did my journaling in these little frames because I thought it was perfect for that. And obviously I couldn't put it there or anything, but yeah, this is 2006. I was really into CSI at the time, so I wore that hat literally in like every photo. Either that one or the one that has like their I guess you call them shields. Yeah, it says the station name and all the stuff like that on it. So I would wear that constantly. It's not a great look for me, but it worked out. And he's all wet because I had just taken him swimming. I have to make out a layout of that because the looks on his face are so funny. He's the saddest looking golden retriever I have ever seen in my life. I mean, he's a happy dog, don't get me wrong, but he just always looks so sad. Look at that little face. Anyway, we're getting off topic. And then this one, again, looking through old photos, I ended up making myself sad because it's like, oh man, not only do I miss this restaurant, but I miss living where we used to live. And yeah, so I got the whole nostalgic feels thing going on with this one. The interesting thing about this layout is I was starting to get down to scraps, and I noticed that the stuff that I had cut off from this layout here to make this frame ended up matching together. So I took those 2 pieces that I cut off from that layout, and I made them match together to make this arrow thing. I put it together with washi tape and then glued it down properly. So I thought that was cool. And I hadn't planned to use the word side of this because I figured I would use this as a really good pattern for backgrounds. But when I started reading the words, you know, memories captured and our daily routine, perfect moment, good life, friends, stuff like that, I thought, you know, it really kind of fits for the nostalgic part of the journaling that I ended up doing. And I matted one of the, I didn't mat it, I just put one of the pieces of paper that had rainbow on the back because I was using a ton of rainbow, and then I had this and I wanted that to stand out. So I flipped it over and it had this nice gray on it. I used a stencil for this confetti stuff, and the cool thing is that I was making my own stencils with my Cameo, so I got to use it like literally right away. I went and I bought them, I cut them, and I used the stencil right away within like an hour. It was pretty awesome. The funny thing about this blue is actually not paper. So I ended up with a paper jam in my selfie, and I don't know if you know, but the selfie has sheets of color that it ends up putting on the paper, so that's how it builds the picture. So when it had the paper jam, it's like, oh, well, the ink cartridge is empty, and the ink cartridge wasn't empty, it was broken. So when I took it out, there was like a sheet of all this color stuff. So I'm like, well, maybe I can use the color stuff so it's not a total waste. So I went and I figured, well, there's a lot of gray, and I didn't have much more than scraps left to mat the photo. So I'm like, well, what if I use the blue? And it's sort of that color blue. I mean, the cyan isn't exactly the same, but I think it worked out. You know, I mean, you wouldn't know if I hadn't just told you. And then, so I kept the when and the where for this so that, you know, it did do the when and the where. And then I added black dots as a kind of tying into the stenciling that I did. And then I was definitely getting down to the last of the scraps, and I had so much stuff, and I'm like, you know, I'm kind of done working with all of this paper. And so I'm like, okay, well, one more layout. Let's just try and do one more. And this ended up being a background, like I thought it would be. This is just a picture of me and my cat, and no, I'm not strangling her. See, it even says, no, I'm not strangling her. But, about this time, she figured out that anytime somebody brings a camera, it's going to flash in her face, and she doesn't like the flash. So, she's trying to get away. She doesn't want the photo, and she's mad. So, she's trying to get away. So, I'm just gently holding her so she can just have her picture taken for a bit. With this one, I used, what is it? It's a Making Memories or Teresa Collins stamp. I forget which, but it's not like it really matters. And I went and I used Distress inks to stamp once, and then to stamp again in the lighter version. So I think this one's Scattered Straw. And I think I kind of like putting little things up here in the corners and stuff, especially for my journaling when, you know, this didn't have any. So, I mean, by now you can probably see what my style is. So, and I wanted to add some black to kind of separate these two patterns so it wasn't so busy. And then I used shiny sparkle dots for this. They could have been black and it would have tied in a bit better, but there's a lot of black in the photos, so I didn't want to add too much black. And I thought the shiny sparkle dots were good. So that was it for the layouts that I got. And then I'm like, okay, well, I still have a bunch of scraps and I don't want to work too much with them. So I ended up making these cards. Now what I did was I had an entire pile of scraps, and I took anything that was 2 inches, or anything that I could cut to 2 inches, and however long it was, it didn't matter. It had to be only 2 inches wide, and I cut it, and then I glued it to a piece of paper. Apparently and then that was 12 minutes. My camera cut me off. With the very last of the scraps, I ended up cutting out a bunch of these. So I've got a bunch of little backgrounds. See, some of the little elephants made it. Some of the hearts made it. And I got more of these in here. I used some white paper too. That was the paper from making the cards, the scrap cards. And a bunch of hearts. And a bunch of leaves. I used the scraps of those. That's the arrow paper. And I got a few butterflies out of the geotag paper, and some stars, and some circles. I was thinking about making these into the embellishments like I've done before, but I really like this combination of paper, and I like the rainbow, so I was thinking I kind of wanted to make them as assemble as you go. So that's how I'm going to leave them, and I'm still going to call it used and, you know, done and whatever, because it did take a lot of punching, and I ended up having to stop because my tendonitis was hurting. But, so that's it. I got a lot of punches out of that, so that's good. And, yeah, like I said, we got 7 cards and 6 layouts and a Project Life layout. Which, you know, that's not too shabby, right? For as much paper as I had. And, so that's it. I hope you like my projects and that you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.